Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is Thursday, day 404. TowerGate day 404, April the 19th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, we've got quite a few news headlines, brief things to hit, and then a little conversation about a story that ran in the True Pundit back this past Friday that I'm just now getting to. First off, a lot of you watching what's going on here with James Comey. You know, I don't know who Comey's lawyer is, but either Comey is ignoring his advice or Comey needs to get a better lawyer. He continues to go out and contradict himself in previous statements, things he's said under oath, and even things in his book. Continues to contradict himself. And to be quite honest with you, I have to think that Uncle Bob Mueller, the special executioner, has to be pretty upset with Comey right now. Because think about this. If Mueller tries to bring an obstruction case against Trump, who would be his number one witness and his main witness? It would be James Comey. And likely those Comey memos would be a big part of that obstruction case. But you've got Comey out there commenting on it, using things in his book from the Comey memos. But more importantly, he's out there trashing Trump and getting very personal about it. And so if you bring him into court as your star witness, the only thing Trump's attorneys have to do is simply say, well, clearly, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this man is terribly biased. First of all, he's a disgruntled employee who was fired by the president for just cause. Secondly, let's look at all the statements he's made which show he's not a credible witness because he is biased in his hate towards the president. And then you can simply sit there and list all the things he said on TV, all the things that are in his book, things that he has said and has been quoted as saying, which would show that he's a compromised witness. And he would be the star witness in the Mueller investigation. So Mueller must be pulling his hair out. Uncle Bob the executioner can't be liking what he's seeing, and he sees that Comey is destroying his own credibility, and he had very little when he began. And let's keep in mind, Comey's very unpopular. The Democrats largely hate him because they think he cost Hillary the election by reopening the email investigation. Republicans hate him because they know that he was part of the frame-up. So I don't know where his support base is, but my guess is it's not very deep or very wide. And he is clearly making a lot of mistakes. I mean, generally an attorney is going to tell their client to shut up and say nothing. Don't go on TV. Don't write a book. Comey's doing the exact opposite of everything most legal counsels would advise you against. He's out there doing every bit of it. Not a very wise move. But then again, he's not a very wise man, is he? Key Republicans sent letters for criminal referral to Sessions, Wray, and Huber. They want an investigation of potential crimes by Comey, Lynch, Yates, the rotten Reverend Clinton, McCabe, Peter's been stroking us, and Loose Lisa Page. I am going to provide the PDF copy of that right there in the description box. I'll put it right there. You can click on it. It's the PDF that takes you directly to the website for, I believe it's the House Judiciary Committee website. It's one of the committee websites, and you can see the letter in PDF form. You can read it for yourself. It lays out all the people, all the individuals, and lays out the specific criminal code that they violated. The people who signed on to this letter, there were 11 of them. Now 2 more have signed on. The main ones being DeSantis, who was the author of the letter, as well as Dave Bratt, Paul Gosar, Jim Jordan, Claudia Tenney. A total of 11 signed the letter, but I think there's 13 now that are backing DeSantis in the letter. So this sets up a very interesting situation, a couple interesting situations. First of all, we have to ask the question why that they sent the letter, and why about the timing of the letter. Well, I can't get into DeSantis's head and these other Republicans, but obviously they want to keep the pressure on, and they want to force some action. But also because I think that they understand that the Inspector General report is coming out, and it is likely going to show the actions that were taken or not taken that should have been taken, but there's not going to be any criminal code violations by the Inspector General. That is up to the Attorney General to do. So I think what this is a chance to get out ahead of it, knowing good and well, having a pretty good idea what's going to be in the Horowitz report. They wanted to go ahead and make the criminal referrals, which is what you need. And of course, the Inspector General will make his own recommendations, but not necessarily criminal referrals. But Congress can certainly make criminal referrals, and they must be followed up on by the Attorney General. Now, this creates a very interesting situation for us, because, as we know, Sessions has recused himself from all things involving the investigation into the 2016 election. And that covers everything, really. The dossier, the FISA abuse, the surveillance on Trump Tower, the emails and the insurance policy, and just about everything that we talk about here on TowerGate that's part of the deep state coup and all things associated with it are all things that would fall under that general heading of investigating the 2016 election. So Sessions would be recused. Now, Sessions can unrecuse himself. Whether or not he'll do that, I don't know. I would doubt it. So where does that leave us? You notice that they addressed this letter to Sessions, Wray, no shit Sherlock Wray, the FBI director, and John Huber. Why not Rodenstein? Well, here's why. Because one of the things that they pointed out, whether it was a violation of the criminal code, was in the FISA abuse, using the dossier to get the FISA warrant, which misled the FISA court because they didn't say who paid for it and all the other things that were part of the fraud of the FISA warrant. Now, this would make Rodenstein a potential target of the investigation, and therefore he cannot be leading an investigation where he is one of the targets of the investigation itself. So this cuts him out of the loop and puts him in a very compromising situation. So if Sessions has recused himself, if Rodenstein cannot do this because he is a target of the criminal investigation based on the letter of a criminal referral, then who does that leave? Well, it goes to the number 3 man. That would be the Solicitor General, whose name is Noel Francisco. He's also a career DOJ type employee. And this creates another problem, because a lot of the things in this criminal referral deal directly with the FBI and the DOJ. You cannot have the FBI and the DOJ investigate themselves. Even Mr. Huber comes out of the DOJ. So this may be an effort on the part of these Republicans to basically put Sessions in a position where he knows that he can't act because he recused himself. Rodenstein cannot act because he is one of the targets of the criminal referral. Mr. Francisco, the Solicitor General, really cannot be, not that he can't be allowed, he could be, but he can't be trusted to act because he is part of the State Department or a part of the Justice Department. So what this could actually be is more of another way of prodding Sessions into appointing a special counsel specifically to look into these things, knowing good and well that the IG report is coming out and it's going to list a lot of the things that were done that were, at the very least, bad conduct or misconduct, probably criminal violations. But Horowitz is not going to lay out a criminal case. He's only going to tell us what happened, who did what. That's what his report is going to tell us. What you do about it is up to the Attorney General, who's, of course, recused himself. The Assistant Attorney General, Deputy Rodenstein, of course, is now a target as a result of this letter. He just became a target of the investigation. So it may be a way of forcing Rodenstein out, forcing him to resign. Rodenstein, as a result of this letter, may have to resign. That means Trump could appoint a new Deputy Attorney General, who would then come in and he would have total free reign. If he wanted to, he could fire Uncle Bob, the special executioner, Mueller. Or he could limit the scope of his investigation. He could get control of the situation. And he could appoint a special counsel. So maybe a very wise move on the part of these key Republicans led by Congressman DeSantis. Well done, fellas. Let's see what this does. In a very strange interview, Comey stated that he hopes the rotten Reverend Clinton will read his book, and he says that she may think he is an idiot, but after reading the 2 chapters, I guess the 2 chapters that are about the email investigation, after she reads them, she'll at least know that he's an honest idiot. This guy's unhinged, man. And it's kind of funny. There was a story yesterday. There was a bookstore. I don't know where it was at, but a bookstore somewhere where Comey's book had gone on sale, and they were having a big shindig, a big promotion there. And the story, the big part of the story turned out to be that there was only 3 people who showed up to get Comey's book. The fact of the matter is, it was about 30 photographers and reporters and cameramen. So the funny part of the story was that there was 10 cameramen and reporters for every person there to purchase a Comey book. My guess is that book's not going to last very long. It'll be in the cutout section very, very soon because I just don't think it's going to be that big of a success. Next, we have the rotten Reverend Clinton. Did you think that she could get any less popular than she already is? Nobody likes the rotten Reverend. Her and Comey should get together. They're 2 of the most unpopular people on the planet. I didn't think her poll could ever go this low. It's getting pretty bad for the rotten Reverend, while Trump's poll numbers climb. But here we have an NBC, Wall Street Journal, certainly no friends of Trump, lovers of the rotten Reverend Clinton, and their own poll, commissioned by the NBC and the Wall Street Journal, states that only 27% of people view the rotten Reverend favorably. 27% favorability. That's pretty bad. And her negative is 52%. That means 52% of people view the rotten Reverend negatively, while only 27% are favorable towards her. Those are low numbers. My suggestion to the Republicans, they just announced they're having huge fundraising on Trump. They're fundraising on Trump and raising record amounts of money. $250 million just since the beginning of the year. Now, I think that they should take at least $100 million and invest as much as they can into Hillary's speeches. They need to bankroll Hillary. The Republican National Committee needs to bankroll Hillary. They need to put Hillary in every single voting district in the country if they can. They want to have her out there making speeches. Bankroll the rotten Reverend. Get her out there as much as possible. Talking as much as possible. Campaigning as much as possible. The more of the rotten Reverend that we can put out there, the better off we'll do. So if the Republicans are smart, they'll donate a huge chunk of money to bankrolling the rotten Reverend Clinton for speeches and fundraisers or whatever else that she does. Bankroll the rotten Reverend. Get her out there and get her as much face time as possible. She's absolute cancer for the Democrats in 2018 and 2020, and she's pure gold for us. I would bankroll and fund the rotten Reverend every dollar I could. She's the best player on our team. You know, Andrew McCabes Lawyer, Andy, continues to respond. And I don't know who the legal representation is for Comey or McCabe. Maybe it's the same guy. But this guy is not a very good lawyer. So he comes back now, and he's responding to Comey and the IG. And again, he's reiterating that McCabe did advise Comey of the Wall Street Journal leak repeatedly. And he continues to say that he has the evidence. Well, apparently the Inspector General and the FBI group that looked at this didn't like the evidence that you've got, Mr. McCabe's Lawyer. because that's not how the IG came down. The IG has stated that apparently they believe Comey, that McCabe did not tell Comey about his leaking that Wall Street Journal story. Now, if other information or evidence comes out to prove otherwise, well, then you would have Comey lying under oath right along with McCabe, which I think is very likely. But anyway, it's just very strange to watch this battle go on between Comey and Lynch, between Comey and McCabe, and they're at odds with each other. And they continue to push on each other and make these statements and these tweets. And none of this helps any of them. Now, I'm glad they're doing it, but no attorney in his right mind would advise any of these three to be out doing this. I understand they need to go out and compete in the court of public opinion, but when they're all facing potential criminal liability, you want to be very careful about how you do it. And none of these people are doing it very well. So we'll just have to continue to see where this plays itself out. But once the indictments come down, that's when you're going to see the hardcore backstabbing that's going to happen. Inevitably, Trump has just made his second tweet in about a week about the FBI not looking at the DNC servers. Does Trump know something we don't know? Is he trying to get something, some point across? Is he trying to get some members of Congress or someone to focus on the idea that they need to look at those servers? And what is that saying? What he's saying is that you need to look at the servers to see who really was responsible. I think Trump doesn't believe that the Russians hacked the DNC. I think Trump believes what Assange says, that it was not the Russians or any government. I think Trump probably knows it was Seth Rich. And he's not letting go of it. He's pushing and pushing and pushing. I wonder if he knows something, or if he's just trying to advance the narrative to force something to happen with those DNC servers. We know that in the BuzzFeed case down in Florida, the Democratic National Committee's attorneys are fighting it with tooth and nail to keep from having to present the evidence that was dug up by CrowdStrike, which is the evidence that says Russians did the hack of the DNC. I don't think that's going to go very well for BuzzFeed. It's just another delay tactic. We have more California cities now opposing Governor Moonbeam and sanctuary cities. As I've said before, I remember when California was a red state. I remember Reagan carrying California twice and Nixon carrying California twice. I know it sounds crazy, and you people probably all think I'm nuts, but do not write off California. You know, the thing is, things are pretty bad there. And outside of a few very liberal areas, there are a lot of conservatives in California. And there's a lot of people who are Democrats, but they're not crazy. And they realize the destruction and damage that's being done to that state. It's almost impossible to be able to afford to even live there anymore, unless you're a highly paid tech guy down in Silicon Valley, or a Hollywood movie star, or a lawyer, or something like that. The average middle-class, blue-collar type person in California can no longer afford to live there, and their neighborhoods are being destroyed by crime. The sanctuary cities is a disaster for the state. There's just a lot of problems there, and I would not rule out that California could turn into a red state again when people are fed up and want to go the other way. There's a pretty good Republican running for governor in California. I don't know that he'll win, not this time. I'm not suggesting this is going to happen in 2020 or 2018 or anything like that. But I'm saying in the next, say, maybe in 6, 8, maybe 10 years, you could see California turn back into a red state. And, of course, there's a petition there to divide California into 3 different states. And they have enough signatures to get that on the ballot in November. And so I do believe that that is going to be on the ballot in November. For all we know, there's going to be a vote in California in November that will split that state into 3 states. Wouldn't that be interesting? Wow. Let's see what happens there. Mark Meadows has made a statement that the Obama administration instructed the Department of Justice and the FBI to surveil Donald Trump. And he says that this is based on information that he's seen through the congressional investigations and also through things that have come out in the public. So, yes, this is a point we've been making here on TowerGate for a very, very long time. The fact that Meadows would come out and make that statement publicly. Generally, you don't like to make a statement you can't back up. The fact that he would come out and make the statement tells us that he's got more information than we know of, and that he knows more than we know about some evidence that may be in the possession of the Inspector General, or maybe just dots that he's connected, or things that he's thinking, or Nunes is thinking, or the direction they're going, or what they believe that they know or can prove. But it's very interesting he would make that statement. It's a true statement, but it seems to be ahead of where you are, and you generally don't like to get ahead of things. Maybe in his mind he's not ahead of things because of what he knows that is going to be coming out and exposed. We'll just have to wait and see. Very bold statement by Mr. Meadows. Well, the Stormy Daniels sketch, people are looking at it. At first, everyone thought it looked like Tom Brady, but now it appears that it looks a lot more like her ex-husband. Police will not even comment on whether or not they're even looking into trying to find this person in this sketch. It all looks a little sketchy to me, and I think we all know what this is all about. It's about money for Stormy Daniels. But I don't think it's going to work out that well for her in the end. Because you know who always gets all the money, don't you? The lawyers. CNN's ratings have fallen unbelievably. I mean, at some point you think, okay, well, the ratings really can't get any lower. But every time you turn around, the ratings do get lower. I don't know how much longer they can last. I know they don't mind losing money as long as they can go out and do anti-Trump propaganda, but the fact of the matter is, at some point, you do have stockholders. Now I realize that CNN is a pretty small part of the overall take of their parent company, but still, you know, at some point, you don't like to lose money, and they're losing a lot of it. But they are now falling behind reruns of Nickelodeon and Home and Garden TV. Is there anything more boring than Home and Garden TV? Well, apparently, CNN. Comey says that it was the Papadopoulos Downer meeting that was the start of the Trump-Russia investigation, which occurred on July 31st, 2016. Again, I covered this on TowerGate. A lot of people covered it back when they came out with this, when the New York Times dropped that story, which was obviously a leak or a plant of some sort. And it just doesn't make sense. I mean, if in fact it was Papadopoulos, then why did they not even interview him until 7-8 months after they launched the investigation? They didn't interview him until late January, but they launched the investigation of 2017, but they actually launched the investigation in July of 2016. Also, if Papadopoulos and Downer, Down the Hatch Downer, were the reason for launching the investigation, then why is there no mention of it anywhere in any of the FISA warrants? All the FISA warrants talk about is the stuff from the dossier and Carter Page. No mention, as far as we know. We haven't seen the transcripts, but members of Congress have, and none of them are talking about seeing anything about Papadopoulos. So they're saying that they launched the Trump-Russia investigation based on the Papadopoulos Downer drunken conversation in the London bar, but they don't use any of that to get any of the FISA warrants. It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Well, Dennis dropped a link to the True Pundit. The title of the article is Feds Drop Bombshell. Comey and Lynch colluded with the Clinton campaign to entrap and wiretap Trump. Illegal scheme involved the entire U.S. intel community. Yes, that's the basic story that we talk about here on TowerGate. It's the big story. They said that this is according to the records and testimony of federal law enforcement insiders. I don't know if that means people who've talked to Horowitz or who exactly that is, but some of the things that they point out are that high-ranking Justice Department officials called it a sweeping, highly illegal scheme to ensnare or to ensure Hillary Clinton's election to the White House. They state that the Justice Department and the State Department schemed to get Veselnitskaya in the U.S. to participate in the Trump Tower setup. That would involve Lynch, McCabe, Bahara, and Sally Yates. Yes, indeed, I covered that as well. That the FBI collaborated with the CIA, the NSA. That would involve Brenner, Clapper, and Jay Johnson. I also have covered that in depth. That the rotten Reverend Clinton bankrolled Fusion GPS to set up the Trump frame-up. Now, if they have some evidence of that, that will be a bombshell. They also point out that Clinton broke campaign finance laws. And yes, she did. They paid somewhere around $12.2 million to Perkins Coie, but they stated it was for legal services when we know that millions of dollars went to opposition research. According to FEC laws, you must state what is opposition research and what is legal services. They did not do that. They are in violation of FEC laws and guidelines and should be prosecuted. Clinton and Fusion GPS, behind the scenes, did the setup for the Trump Tower meeting. Oh yeah, no question about it. Circumstantial evidence shows that, but you would need some good physical evidence or a witness, and then you would have a slam dunk. Maybe Horowitz has got it. I don't know. They say that Trump Russia started right after the Trump Tower meeting. That's absolutely correct, and we heard the Rotten Reverend first reference it in the second debate, and from there it was on. We also have the Trump Tower meeting that led to the wiretapping of Manafort, Trump Jr., and Kushner. True. The GCHQ, British Intelligence Service, did the surveillance. Yes, we know that and covered it here. That Fusion GPS may have paid Veselnitskaya expenses, a stipend, travel expenses, and accommodations. We assumed that that would be true. And that FBI paid Steele $100,000. That's been alleged but not proven. They apparently were going to pay him. Whether or not they actually did is still unproven. But that's basically there in the True Pundit. Very interesting. All things we've covered here. All allegations have been made. All things we think are highly probable. But as far as actual witnesses to testify or whether these things end up in the Horowitz report, we'll just have to wait and see. We just don't know. We just don't know. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be back tomorrow with Friday's video, and we'll follow up on those on the Comey memos. The last thing we heard was that they're still arguing over that, fighting over that. Apparently, there's issues with whether or not something in the Comey memos could be used in either the Mueller's case or in the IG report. So they're arguing over that. We'll see what happens. No contempt charge yet, but if they do launch a contempt charge against Rodenstein in the next day or two, he will be forced to resign. He will then be a criminal target, and he will no longer have the authority to oversee the investigation of Mueller. So that is it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow. You guys have a good night. Goodbye.